Greetings, Palico Patch, and welcome back to another Sleepy Sunday Let's Play episode of the Away Team and its new additional content, The Lost Exodus. In the last episode, we kind of chickened out of doing the proper mission. One thing I've learnt in this game is it's not always a good thing to see a mission through to the bitter end. Sometimes it's just not worth it. And when I am faced, or should I say Jean-Luc Picard, is faced with creatures in the walls with big claws on their hind legs and an effigy or some sort of scribe picture type thing on a panel of something we don't know what it does, where there's something exploding out of somebody's chest. That doesn't sound like a fun time to me. Call me cynical or old if you will, but that doesn't sound fun to me. I've seen enough alien films to know that anything coming out of your chest, generally speaking, is not a good thing. So we hightailed it out there. We called it quits, and as it stood, we didn't lose anyone last time around. There was a few things which came up. We had an addition to the sensors, which is tip top, but I think it's time we cracked on. We've had an episode where I haven't killed anybody, so I'm quite happy to I'm quite happy to kill someone. I'm quite happy to put people at risk now, shall we say. So let's crack off to the right, since that's the closest we're to anyway, and make that jump. Boom. So we have made 2 jumps. We've gone a little bit less distance-wise in the parsec distance this time around. I think it's 1500 last time, so that's all right. But everyone's still alive. Food is all right. Fuel is okay. Let's see what happens this time around. Oh, we got 2. Well, let's go to the nearest one. Astimov 66M. I presume that's not 66 meters away, or else that'd make us a very small, tiny ship. A bit like Inner Space. Good film. Dennis Quaid. Check it out. Martin Short. Very funny. So it's a K star class. It's a moon in the moon. Atmosphere 15% oxygen. Less than. That's probably not too good. Habitability is 32.39%. Don't think we'll be staying here for too long. Summary. If this location wasn't programmed into the ship's maps, it would not have even been worth slowing down for. Sensors detect no signs of life. No obvious fuel sources. Not even an obvious carbon-based material for the food replicator. It's a dead world. The precise target, however, seems to be the large moon in orbit around the planet. No more live, but slightly more interesting. Well, I'll be the judge of that. Who are we taking this time around? Well, I think Jean-Luc needs to come again. I think he does. I think we always need a medic, so Dr. Phil is on his way. We're going to take the Space Wizard out as well. Is that about right? You know what? No, Jean-Luc can sit this one out. I'm feeling confident. We're going to step up the Space Wizard to leader, because why not? He's reckless, which is fine, but he's lucky, so I feel we'll be fine. Everything will go according to plan. So Dr. Phil is medic and engineer this time around. That's fine. The crew clambers up into the top of the ship and prepares the shuttle for a lunar landing. Once the trajectory is plotted, the magnetic couplings are released, and the shuttle gently eases loose from the main body of the ship in a process the crew have grimly referred to as decapitation. That's not a good start. Doesn't hurt you a bit. And anyway, everything responsible for you is currently much lower on the body of the ship. You don't need a head to survive. Good to note. As you adjust speed and angle to keep the ship in a stable orbit, the shuttle closes in on the surface of the moon. As the cameras and sensors come online, it becomes clear that this is definitely the right place, or at least an interesting one. Giant lines, many kilometers long, are carved into the lunar surface, like the Nazca lines on Earth, but actually visible from space. The crew can make out at least 3 sets of straight crossed lines with a large arc below them. Clearly the lines are not natural, but what do they indicate? Why is this little moon, of all places, the first destination on the ship's maps? There's no logic behind it as far as you can tell. Perhaps the crew can figure it out. Dr. Phil squints a little, then breaks out into laughter. Is it space madness? It seems not. They wipe away a tear and they point. Look, 2 eyes, a nose and a mouth. It's a big smiley face. Oh, those aliens, they've got a good sense of humour. It's something of a stretch perhaps, but they're right. There's a smiley face to be seen there. Whether it was intentional or this is just... that's a big word. Pareidolia remains to be seen, but for a brief time, spirits are raised. So we can explore the leftmost site, the centre site, or the rightmost site. Well, I like to think as an AI, a superior intellect, we're always right. So let's go right. The shuttle banks to starboard, heading towards the strange X marking in that direction. Nothing remarkable is evident from the air, and the shuttle comes in for a gentle landing dead centre of the X, on what turns out to be somewhat rocky and uneven terrain. A faint haze of dust hangs in the air, but the ground is apparently relatively clear of the fine soil evident elsewhere. Once outside the shuttle, there's not much to see, and the options for the away team seem limited. Well, let's take some rock samples, I suppose. Be rude not to. Handheld scanners reveal nothing particularly special about the stone, but even the most basic readings seem to indicate that the rocks do contain traces of several rare earth elements. It takes a bit of work, but the crew collects some of the most dense rocks, in the hope that they might be able to extract some fissionable material for the ship's reactor. It looks like there might be more of interest further northwest of here, but this area is fairly unimpressive. Do we walk? Do we get the shuttle involved? I mean, let's face it, we're lazy. Shuttle it is. Exploring on foot is too risky. Oh, and that as well. Even if it does mean perhaps missing some crucial details. The crew gets back in the shuttle and does some observation from the air. There's not much to see beyond the markings already observed, and an unremarkable plateau to the northwest. Considering all available data and what scant resources remain, it might be worth heading towards the unmarked northwest plateau. There may be nothing really visible from the air, but if humans were here and the surface was this inhospitable, they very well could be something underground. Alright then, well, why not? A plateau rises up before the shuttle. Even from a distance, it's clear to the crew that there is something about the area that's unnatural. Not in a scary, spooky way, but in the sense that nature clearly did not make everything here. The sides of the plateau are a bit too steep and regular. Some hand had a part in shaping this terrain. The question is, was it human? There are no obvious structures atop the plateau, but readings indicate that there are several hollow spaces rather near the surface. It's unlikely that there's more here than meets the eye. Or there's likely. Did I say that? I don't know. I might have said that. It's likely anyway. There are two decent landing areas, dead centre or off to the north. The centre looks more convenient, but the northern edge looks a bit safer. I'm all for safe. The shuttle lands near the northern face of the plateau, settling gently to the ground. There is no sign of the pervasive dust found everywhere else on the moon. The surface is clean and smooth, although not quite what one would call polished. The crew leaves the shuttle to look around, but finds no obvious way underground. Perhaps there might be a path elsewhere. Upon exiting the shuttle, Dr. Phil can't help but notice what looks like something metallic beneath the shuttle. It's extremely irritating to have to do it, but the shuttle is boarded and flown exactly 3 meters away, then powered down again. Sure enough, there's a metal hatch in the ground, right where the shuttle had landed. Well, I've seen Lost. I know lots of miraculous things are involved when it comes to hatches in general. So I think we should probably enter the hatch. I mean, why not? Let's go crazy. The hatch opens up to reveal a rather deep shaft, about 1 meter wide, with handholds carved into the stone on all sides. The crew heads down, taking care to avoid a falling incident. Fortunately, the etchings in the stone are deep and practically unused, and are easy to grip. The bottom is quickly reached. The crew turns up the brightness on their helmet lights, revealing a relatively small chamber with stone carvings etched on all sides. In the centre is a statue. It is clearly that of a man. Oh, okie dokie. This chamber and everything within definitely came from humans. The away team is definitely on the right path. Well, carvings or statue? I mean, we know the statue is a man. Let's check out the carvings. There might be some sort of language we understand. The carvings depict what are clearly constellations of some sort. Points of light of various sizes, some of them connected by lines, are definitely meant to indicate arrangements of stars. But the constellations are nothing that anyone is familiar with, and there's not enough information given to surmise what these stars, viewed from Earth, might have been. Weird, says Dr. Phil. Notice how each one of the stars, I think it's obvious they are stars, is connected at least 3 corners, so each dot has 3 lines coming off of it. Great, says Dr. Phil, but what does that tell us? Nada. He's talking to himself. He's mad, I tell you. Space mad. There are no answers, but the crew is getting tired of a certain someone's attitude. So he's getting annoyed with himself then. Okay. It's time to get the crew back to the ship before someone murders someone else. Well, let's check out the statue first. The statue depicts a curly-haired man, albeit an idealised version of one, some 4 meters tall, heavily muscled and quite traditionally handsome by 21st century Western European standards. Around his wrists are what appear to be metal cuffs, each bearing what appears to be a broken chain link. Pulled around his feet are long lengths of the same type of chain, and under his right foot is some sort of large crushed bird. Okay. Bizarrely, the statue's face is missing a mouth. Perhaps the carvers didn't have time to finish or couldn't be bothered. Beneath the statue is written, I see a shade, a shape. 'Tis he, arrayed in the soft light, which spread like radiance from the cloud-surrounded moon. This seems familiar, says Space Wizard. Some kind of poem or something. They rack their brain for a moment. Right, do we let them figure it out themselves, or do we tell them it's Prometheus? I didn't know, so therefore I suppose we should let them figure it out, because I didn't know. Something like P, Pythagoras, Polyphemus, says Space Wizard. Aha, it's Prometheus! And with the snap chains, I bet it's Prometheus Unbound, poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley. I think that's how you say it, or Bysshe Shelley. Bysshe Shelley? No idea. Fantastic, says Dr. Phil. But what does that tell us? Nothing. No one has any answers, but the crew agrees that someone is pushing their luck. Order the crew to return to the ship. Hey-ho. The away team carefully records everything, then gets back into the shuttle and leaves the moon's surface. No further conclusions are realised on the way back. Once the shuttle is recoupled and the ship has its head back, the crew uploads the rest of the data into your system and heads off to find food and prep for the next journey. Slowly, since they have to reorientate themselves now that their frame of reference is 90 degrees off and gravity, provided by the engines, is down again. By the time they've stumbled down the first ladder, you've solved the mystery. You inform them once they've settled in. Destination system identified. New course is set. Nav computers updated. So we can give the crew a detailed explanation of your findings. Or the crew seems bored. I think it's good to keep everyone in the loop. So we'll do that. The large carving is an abstract depiction of a human face. The arc is clearly a smile. The statue bears a quote, but the quote, like the statue's face, is incomplete. The actual quote from Percy Bysshe Shelley's poem, Prometheus Unbound, is as follows. I see a shade, a shape. 'Tis he, arrayed in the soft light of his own smiles, which spread like radiance from the cloud-surrounded moon. The missing words from the poem are from Act 2, Scene 1, line 1 to 1. Note the rest of the quote, a shade, a shape, like radiance from the cloud-surrounded moon. This is where the carvings come in. Each star a point with 3 lines. Cartesian coordinates x, y and z. X equals 2, y equals 1, z equals 1, 2, 1. Those are our directions. A shape radiating out from the centre of the cloud-surrounded moon. This moon. Pause for effect. Well, clearly someone had a lot of time on their hands, says Dr. Phil, or it is just showing off how clever they are. But okay, fine. So what about the big face carving? The phrase of his own smiles indicates we must look for a smile, and since neither the statue nor the quote contain one, we must look elsewhere, and therefore the large smile carving provides us the final number we need. That smile is also an arc, which can be measured in arc seconds. Another measure which relates to an arc is a parsec, which you may or may not know, depending on your particular realm of knowledge. Is how far a distant object needs to be at to have a parallax of 1 arc second. My mind is blown already. Clearly then, yes, clearly, says Space Wizard, voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, Space Wizard. You're so sarcastic. Or perhaps not so clearly, we are meant to translate the length of the arc in arc seconds to a number of parsecs, which along with our x, y, z coordinates give us not only direction but distance in light years. There are some extra details involving time and other such trivia, but the crew is definitely getting bored, so you keep these to yourself so they can get ready for cryo. They don't really care where you're going, as you have lost all sense of where they were coming from. The ship passed Bernard's star within the first 1% of the total distance you've already come so far. I've already set a course. I will spare you the details, but it's heading towards what you may recognise as Andromeda. We will make the jump shortly. Fortunately, it will not take us nearly as long to reach as predecessor ships took. And we're supposed to figure all that out? Asked Dr. Phil. Yes and no. A human was meant to recognise the human touch in the message, the statue, the face, the carvings. An AI was meant to analyse the data based on these observations. This message was meant only for us, this ship or another like it, human and AI together. Whoever left this encoded message believed that only together could we have solved the problem. What you leave unsaid is that this was probably true for an AI as it was known to humans aboard the predecessor ships. You, of course, are far more capable of interpreting and evaluating things like emotion and creativity, but there's no need to point that out to the humans, since it would only make them feel sad and uncomfortable. Case in point, see how well you predicted that emotional response? You'd pat yourself on the back if you had one. So we've got 10 fuel, no food, and everyone else is A-okay. That is a win, I think. The crew is flashing. What is going on here? Space Wizard, you are flashing, sir. You are flashing. So we've got the rock sample. Awesome. I mean, everyone likes a rock sample. And we've got the Prometheus statue sketch. Nice. Managed to draw some stuff. Awesome. He's a level 2 leader as well now, which makes him pretty effective. Or at least as good as Jean-Luc Picard. Oh, Arch Toasty and Bozef, we miss you so. Oh. Right, so. Supposedly we know where we're going. It didn't really give us any idea on where we're going, but that's fine. That's fine. I did say this time around, though, we would check out what all this says. So we have ship systems overview. The Argo is a Theta-class vessel, which, seeing as it's the only one of its kind, really means nothing. It was the 27th and presumably last ship launched from Earth orbit on November the 3rd, 2127 CE. Fully loaded, the ship weighs about 2.3 million kilograms and is approximately 50 meters long, including the detachable forward shuttle, which takes up roughly the first quarter of the ship. The crew calls that the front, but technically speaking, it's more like the top. While in motion, the engines generate about 1 G, which turns the ship into more of a tower than a train, and the crew relies on ladders to get up and down between the shuttle and the rest of the ship. Maximum optimal crew size is 8, but redundant cryopods allow for up to 10. Top speed is unknown. You don't want to think too hard about either of those. You have no idea what Eve, the creator of the ship, was thinking. Alright. AI housing. You don't really have a house per se. The ship is your body, and your brain, if you have one, is rather decentralized. There are quantum things and processors and so on and so forth, but none of that is you. The ship has a head, but it regularly comes off, so you're pretty sure you're not there. That's about as precise as you can get, though. Such things are for humans to worry about, not you. Your job is to find them a home, not to philosophize. Big words, big words. Astrogation. The ship's astrogation consists of one-of-a-kind FLRW unit with a CMB compensator, in parallel with dual Rindler boxes featuring a custom Slifer Humason quantum interface de-entanglement algorithm, and strontium lock. And I messed up on the strontium word, obviously. This is all a precursor to the main Lorentzian manifold, which corrects for pi. The nav computer interface is with a sandbox clone of your personality, is residing within a self-contained ZM hypercomputer hooked up to a Lindley compensator, Fredkin jump unit, and Morton's fork. It's programmed to use basic Chaitin avoidance protocols, but it's theoretically allowed to override these if it deems necessary. Oh my god! You know what? I'm already sort of bored. All we need to know is upgrade. Sensor upgrade. Jump 1. Analysis of research gathered on corral mass ejections allowed sensor range to be increased beyond reductions caused by previous damage. And we took sensor damage, which is fine because we had the upgrade. Awesome. If you know, pause if you want to read it. There's big words here. There's big words. My brain is already mangled up from that last expedition, so I'm kind of done. But there you go. If this sort of thing interests you, enjoy. Wallow in it. Wallow in the technical words. I'm done. Right, so off to Shiner 73S. Oh yes. Unless we run into something in the meantime, that is. Now, my only quibble so far, and I wouldn't know without going back and watching my previous series, is a lot of these are ones I've done already in my last playthrough. I'm sure of it. Summary. Air pressure warnings alert you to a possible problem in the machines shop, moments before it becomes apparent that both the Theseus daemon and exterior drone controller are offline. Neither internal nor external cameras can see the breach, but you are able to detect gases venting from the rear of the ship, near the port actuator coupling. Okay. I guess that means bad news. Mission underway. Air pressure. We have read all that. Space Wizard is in the machine shop, startled but unharmed. The rest of the crew is scattered across the ship. Only a few seconds have passed, but the crew, your drones, and the Theseus unit initialization sequence take time, and at this moment, time is there. So we can put everyone into the shuttle. We can seal all bulkheads. We can send drones to investigate, or we can reboot Theseus. Neither internal nor external cameras can see the breach, but you're able to detect gases venting from the rear of the ship. and Space Wizard is in the machine shop. Exterior drone controls offline, so it's no good sending drones, is it? I would suspect. We could seal all bulkheads, but that means we might lose Space Wizard. I suppose we'd better make sure everyone's okay and evacuate everyone. The crew are the mission, and keeping them alive is your primary responsibility. You inform the crew that there has been a hull breach and that the ship is depressurizing. You activate emergency strip lighting, providing directions to the top of the ship where the shuttle is located. Once Space Wizard is clear of the machine shop, you seal the room and continue closing bulkheads behind them as they move toward the shuttle. Once everybody is aboard the shuttle, you bring them up to speed on the current situation. The hull has been compromised with a breach of unknown dimensions located somewhere along the rear wall of the machine shop, you say. The cause of the breach is unknown. It appears that the machine shop is the only section of the ship that has been depressurized. The amount of additional damage is unknown, but the Theseus unit is not functional, and exterior drone control is offline. Any questions? No time for questions, says Space Wizard. We've got to get out of there and fix this. Hold your horses, you reply. The only way you're getting through this is if we plan ahead and know what we're doing. If the external drones and the Theseus unit are dead, that's a pretty big deal, says Space Wizard thoughtfully. You'll need me to fix this, won't you? Yes, you reply. I'll be able to guide you through sealing the breach and inspecting the Theseus unit. Beyond that, you will need to work out what we're doing as we learn more. You'll need to rely on your crew to help assess this problem further. Thankfully, EVA training has a requirement for all crew, so sending them outside is an option. The ship is in orbit around a small star, but far enough away from that radiation shouldn't pose a danger to the crew or interfere with the communications during repairs. Suit up, it's time to get outside. Since your internal drones were unable to locate the breach, sending the crew outside seems the best option. External cameras have shown roughly where the breach is located, and you calculate the safest path for the crew along the hull as they prepare to exit via the shuttle's dorsal hatch. Before opening the hatch, you make sure that one of the shuttle's emergency breach repair kits is brought along. Who should carry the breach repair kit? Right, thought this through already. I'm going to go with Geordie LaForge. He is our mechanic. He is our engineer after all, and he's darn good one, if I do say so myself. The crew moves slowly along the outside of the ship. Although EVA isn't an intended part of normal crew activities, the hull has been fitted with handholds and rails. You instruct the crew to tether themselves to the rails, and they pass from section to section. Was that star always so close? Asks Jean-Luc Picard, pointing to the nearby star. You're pretty certain that Jean-Luc Picard knows that it hasn't moved, so you don't answer. Just up ahead. You add a visual representation of the breach to the crew's suit HUD. Space Wizard stops for a moment, excited by the glimpse of ship systems from the outside. I know what all of this should look like from the technical documentation I've read, but there's something different about seeing it in person. As the crew approaches the breach, you ask them to describe it to you while you examine what you can from their suit cameras. The hole is clearly a puncture created by something outside the ship passing through the hull. From the shape and orientation of the hull, you can identify the object's speed, size and trajectory. You calculate that there should be something approximately 20 millimeters across lodged in the bulkhead on the opposite side of the machine shop, and dispatch a drone to confirm this while you return your attention to the crew. Maybe big enough to fit 3 fingers into if I wasn't wearing the suit, continues Dr. Phil. Oh, I'm sure he's used to putting 3 fingers in things. Oh, yes, got to measure those orifices. You let them finish before bringing them up to speed. The object that caused the breach is still inside, based on its trajectory. I can confirm that no critical systems were damaged, but there is some minor damage to redundant lighting and heating circuits, secondary pressure regulators, and secondary CO2 scrubbers. There's also the question of why the Theseus unit isn't running and why external drones are not responding to commands. Where should we start? Asked Geordie LaForge. So we can repair the breach, repair the damaged circuits, or inspect the Theseus unit. Well, I think really we should repair the breach first. And then we can probably look at the Theseus unit after that. Geordie LaForge begins to unpack the breach repair kit, which also includes a number of tools for assessing the structural integrity of hull plating. Although the crew tasks could be completed by one person, it would be best to keep the entire crew busy. You decide who would be best to handle the actual breach repair first, and this will involve mixing a binding agent. Surgeon, observant, confident, weak. Mechanic, observant, lucky, reckless. Mechanic, observant, confident, disabled. Politician, polite, teamwork and stubborn. I mean, it's just mixing. Binding agent. Dr. Phil can do that. Dr. Phil can do that. You talk Dr. Phil through preparing the repair kit's various compounds while selecting a crew member to perform a surface analysis of the region around the breach. Oh, that's got to be Mr. LaForge. He's got his special visor thing which can see all sorts of atoms and stuff which normal people can't see. You instruct George LaForge to take a surface analyzer from the repair kit. You assign the rest of the crew supervisory roles. Eventually, the surface analyzer emits a series of beeps, indicating that the puncture is the only structural issue present. After leaving the repair compounds to settle for their indicated rest periods, you guide Dr. Phil through the process of loading them into various slots on the bonding agent dispenser. Dr. Phil carries the bonding agent dispenser over to the breach and places its nozzle into the hole before pulling the trigger. By weaving the bonding agent dispenser back and forth across the hole's width, the bonding agent is able to cover and seal the gap quickly, fusing with the surrounding hull as it hardens. Cool. So I presume that is done. Awesome. So, I mean, it's lighting and heating or the feces unit. I'm still not 100% sure what the feces unit does. Sounds important. Let's fix that next. The feces unit roams across the hull. You are able to confirm its current location on the other side of the ship with external cameras, but you are not able to see enough of it to assess any possible physical damage. You provide the crew with HUD markers showing the most appropriate route. Well, make your way. Carefully, mind. Carefully. The crew banters good-naturedly as they traverse the hull. Jean-Luc Picard gasps as the crew draws close to the Theseus unit, and multiple people begin speaking at once. Via their suit cameras, you can see what appears to be a long shaft protruding out of the Theseus unit. What the hell is that? Asked Space Wizard, awed. Maybe we should work out what it is and what it wants before we make any decisions, says Jean-Luc Picard earnestly. You analyse as much of the suit cam data as you can and explain to everybody what you can determine. The most likely scenario is that this object is not foreign, you say. The object appears to be a piece of the Theseus unit extruded into space by the ship's external drones. Didn't you say the external drones were offline? Asked the Space Wizard. You explain that the Theseus unit is one of several critical systems that the drones will prioritise repair of over normal operation, and that since the Theseus unit wasn't actually being repaired, they were stuck in a loop. To test this hypothesis, you send an emergency power down signal to all drones. The surface of the object immediately changes slightly as the drones swarming along it stop moving. I believe I can repair the Theseus unit now that I understand the problem, you tell the crew, but I will need someone to disconnect it manually. Right. Well, I think we should probably get the Space Wizard involved at this point. He is a mechanic after all. He's a magic mechanic. Space Wizard quickly approaches the Theseus unit and tethers himself to the device. What next? You guide Space Wizard through the process of disconnecting the Theseus unit, going over each step multiple times before proceeding. Is that it? Asks the Space Wizard. Space Wizard pauses for a moment and then flicks the indicator switch from 1 to 0. With the Theseus unit detected as offline, you are able to bypass the repair priority subroutine and manually control repairs of the Theseus unit. I'm saying Theseus unit so much, it's kind of making my tongue go all twisty. It's not the best feeling, to be honest with you, but hey ho. Fully repairing the Theseus unit will take a while, but I can handle that from here. You inform the crew and provide them with HUD indicators to guide them back to the location of the breach. You also dispatch a standard fleet of drones to monitor and vaporise debris that might cause further hull damage. Well, let's have the crew repair the damaged circuits now. Our focus here is interim repairs to the secondary pressure regulator. The CO2 scrubbers can be replaced from inside the ship, and since the primary scrubbers are functioning, we can ignore those for now and allow drones to deal with that once the ship isn't locked down. Same with the redundant heating and lighting circuits. You use your drones to inspect the damage more closely. Whatever breach of the hull also tore several holes in pipes, leading into the pressure regulator, which in turn tore it free from its mount and severed electrical connections. Oh dear. Going to the repair work then. Your suit patches should be sufficient for sealing the pipes. Yeah, that's right. The gas escaping from them is helium and does not pose a threat. The regulator's power and I/O cables use a quick release connector, so they shouldn't have been damaged. Once reconnected and sealed, the regulator will need to be reaffixed to the hull. The breach repair kit contains several chemical adhesive strips that should do the job. You divide the crew between patching pipes and reconnecting cables. Space Wizard volunteers to supervise work on the pipes. Use a drone to point out each tear and assess the crew's work as they go. Jean-Luc Picard volunteers to oversee reconnecting the pressure regulator's cables. You use a drone to pass cables to the crew as they go. Working together, the crew finishes quickly. You repressurize the pipes and monitor for both internal and external gas leaks. Your readings indicate that there are remaining leaks inside the ship, but your drones will be able to deal with those. You also power up the pressure regulator and run a quick diagnostic to confirm that everything is working before powering it down again. Good work, everybody. Next, we need to attach the regulator back to the hull. You ask Dr. Phil to retrieve 6 adhesive strips from the breach repair kit while you instruct the rest of the crew in bending the pressure regulator's mounting bracket back into place. Guided by visual indicators you place on their hood, Dr. Phil applies the adhesive strips to the mounting bracket. The strips are pressure activated and will bond when they receive about 500 newtons of force, you say, as you direct several drones to gently bend the pipes and bring the pressure regulator into contact with the mounting brackets, before giving a push strong enough to start the strips. Chemical reaction. With repairs complete, the crew packs up the repair kit and does a quick visual inspection of any further damage. Okay, people, time to return to the shuttle. You return your attention to the Theseus unit. Drone analysis confirms your suspicion that the object protruding from the Theseus unit was circuitry extruded by drones. The repair logs that would normally have indicated this were overwritten by the malfunctioning Theseus unit. The drones also found a larger Metroid. Sorry. That's my gaming in me, the gaming in me. The drones also found a larger meteoroid inside the Theseus unit. Likely it was struck first, indirectly taking out the external drone fleet at the same time and leaving the ship vulnerable to the breach caused by the other meteoroid. Meanwhile, the drones were using fabrication tools to replicate the portion of the Theseus unit's circuit over and over, thanks to the repair history that the damaged Theseus unit was overwriting. By the time you finished writing a separate log storage mechanism, and a service responsible for handling reads and writes, the Theseus unit is operational again. After you reconnect it to the rest of the ship's systems, the Theseus daemon happily takes over and begins a complete surface assessment of the hull. "We're here," says Dr. Phil as the crew approaches the shuttle. You open the shuttle's dorsal hatch and once the crew is inside, begin repressurizing the ship. Once everybody's off the shuttle, you bring the larger meteoroid aboard. It's comprised primarily of organic matter and could be converted into a small amount of fuel or food. Nice. Nice. Well, it's going to have to be food because we've got lots of fuel. You find Space Wizards back in the machine shop, cleaning up. They stumble across a small meteoroid embedded in the opposite wall from the breach. You discuss the day's events with Space Wizard while they roll the tiny rock around in their hand. With the emergency over and the crew settled, you plot a course to your next destination. So, we did alright. We got a little bit of food off that. No one died, more importantly, which is awesome. And we can continue on our journey. And, oh, what do we have? Space Wizard again. Oh, he is the Space Hoarder. Look at that. Micro Meteoroid Jump 2. A small meteoroid that breached the hull. What a keepsake. What a keepsake. And that is where we shall leave this very technical episode. There's lots of big words in that. Couldn't get my tongue around a few of them, but hey ho, I think I did pretty well considering. And we'll head to Shiner 73S at the start of the next episode. So thank you for watching. As always, a like is appreciated. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.